Okay, awesome. So today I'm hanging out with Alex Rodriguez, who, if you are a friend of his, you call him A-Rod. Can people call you A-Rod? Yeah, is that cool?
Yeah, most people call me A-Rod.
Most people call him A-Rod. Okay, we call him A-Rod. And A-Rod is the CEO of Workman, which is a startup that helps you as a construction worker do project management. So you can create invoices and estimates and all sorts of things on his platform. And A-Rod has had some really interesting stories around working with co-founders. You run this business. You also run a couple other organizations in your city and have had some interesting stories around like partnerships and working with other people. So I wanted to have you come on and talk to us about like what does it look like to manage co-founder drama, which is something that everybody encounters, but nobody often talks about. So like, can you tell us a little bit more about just like what you do as a CEO, and then we can jump into the co-founder stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, my company is called Workman, and we're a project management tool for construction contractors, both general and sub. So, whether you do home repairs or snow plowing or painting, you can use our platform to create projects and manage that project by doing estimates, invoices, project material forms, and notes.
Awesome.
And we're still early stage. So as a CEO, you kind of do everything. It's pretty much just about talking to customers and trying to get sales and building a product around that.
Yeah. So right now, is it mainly you and your like how many people are you working with these days?
We're a small team. It's just three of us.
Three people. Okay. No, that's the best stage. That's like where you want to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully we can keep it small for a while.
Yeah. So, okay. So how many people started like day one with the idea? Was it just you? Were there other people? Was it all three of you when you started?
It was just me and my co-founder when we started.
Okay. So
And we got the team.
you currently have you, your co-founder, and then one other person.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then we slowly grew to about 6 people. A few of them were interns, and that was kind of a bad mistake just because we didn't really have the revenue coming in. And you know how it goes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to manage people too, especially when you bring them on too quickly.
Yeah. I've done that before. And it's like, actually, we grew too fast. We need to scale back a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's painful, but you got to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got you and your co-founder. And has it been, how long have you guys been at this, by the way?
With Workman, we're approaching a year.
Yeah.
But with the recent pivot, it's only been about almost 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So has it been smooth sailing? You said like about a year. Has it been smooth sailing in terms of like everybody on the team getting along the entire time?
No, no way.
Okay.
It's been pretty rough. I mean, now it's good. But I don't want to say the first 2 months, like 3 to 6 months of it were just kind of hell. Like you said, a lot of co-founder drama.
Yeah.
We got a lot of issues going back and forth. Both internally and externally, and the startup at one point was looking like it was going to fail completely. Yeah, I mean, one reason was we weren't agreeing on stuff. The company wasn't going the way we thought it would be going, and I think one of the biggest things that kills startups is lack of momentum. I think when you
Yeah.
have momentum, no matter what, things will kind of work itself out or things will fall apart naturally. But when you don't have momentum, like the tension grows, and that's kind of what was going between me and our co-founder. We weren't making
Yeah.
revenue, we were losing customers, and then we kind of started, not trusting each other. We were kind of questioning our decisions, and that just kind of snowballed. It was a few things. One is I think we weren't agreeing on kind of product development roadmap,
Okay.
and that was largely my fault. So I kind of kept trying to build all these features for the product, and we weren't really selling it or getting good customer acquisition. And he was kind of not agreeing that we should build that, like we're wasting time. And I
He
was kind
wanted
of
to
just,
stop building and start selling a little bit more, and you were like, "But we need to build out the product."
yeah, like my problem was I thought, if we build more features, they'll come to it, which is obviously not the case. So that caused issues. And then we also had issues on terms of like disagreement with like time commitments and stuff. Like, what do we spend selling? What do we spend time on building with? That was kind of one of the issues. One of the other big issues too was we both weren't taking any kind of money at first.
Mm,
And you can do that for a while, I think, but after a while, like money starts to run out, and I mean, we were running pretty low on cash. I mean, just personal savings and stuff too. So that causes just a lot of internal issues. And again, when the company's not having momentum, like you start disagreeing about a lot of things. I think one thing too was we each brought on more people than we should have brought on. I mean, like I said, we grew the team kind of quickly. No, I'll say those are the main ones.
Those are the main things.
Yeah.
So how did you guys meet? How did you meet your co-founder?
Yeah, so Joe and I have known each other for about a little over 3 years. I want to say
Okay.
4.
So this wasn't like a new thing you went on founderdating.com and like found
No.
random. You knew this person for a while, for years.
Yeah, exactly. And I've worked with him in the past. So my freshman year of college, I had a startup called Skylex, and I should say it was more like a project because we never really went full time.
Mm-hmm.
And him and I met at a startup event, and we kind of just, we connected off the bat, got along really well. And he was working on a company at the time, and I was working on Skylex. And Skylex was pretty much just a scholarship marketplace.
Okay, cool.
Kind of like Chug, essentially. And he, again, he's my technical co-founder, so he's really good at building stuff. Not the greatest at selling, and I was the opposite. So I was pretty good at getting users on board, but couldn't really build a product. I was kind of just hacking it.
Yeah.
So him and I just got a bunch of coffees and just kept networking. I mean, not networking, but kind of just staying in touch. And then we actually ended up kind of combining our projects together, where he helps me out with kind of building it, and I help him out with selling it. And that kind of just formed to be a friendship and business partnership. And although we didn't really succeed with our projects, we kind of built a good friendship and good business relationship. So we worked pretty well together. And
so at the time, was he working on something else?
He was, yeah.
Okay, and you were helping you were like consulting for each other in exchange, bartering.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. That's a really good way to ease into the co-founder agreement, which is like, I'll help you with your stuff, you help with me with my stuff.
Agreed. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you didn't really rush crazy into working with your co-founder. You started working on other stuff together. And then, are you guys still working together? He's still on the team?
Yeah, he's still my co-founder.
Okay.
So basically what happened, long story short, is we ended up kind of just slowly shutting the project down. And we stayed in touch with a few ideas, projects, but never really committed to them.
This is the first project.
Yep. So we ended up shutting down Skylex eventually, just slowly. He went to go work full-time for a few companies. I was, still in school, and I was also working on projects and kind of breaking into the tech startup scene in the Twin Cities. And we just always stayed in touch and kind of bounced ideas off each other. And then, most recently we started talking about working together again on a startup. We both kind of wanted to go full time. And I had mentioned Workmand, which was a completely different idea when we first started.
Yeah.
He kind of liked it, so we just kind of built it on the side, and we got some initial traction, which was enough for us to kind of just say, well, screw it. If we're going to do it this time, let's go full time.
Got it. Okay. So you go full time on that. There's some disagreements on Workman. That's mainly when you guys have like a sort of difference in views, but you guys have figured it out.
I mean, yeah. Now we have a pretty good. I wouldn't say something serious. I think now it's kind of just like all healthy co-founder relationships. Like there's disagreements and stuff, but I would say it's for the better. We kind of like challenge each other and kind of question our theories sometimes to make sure we're actually, making sure we're moving in the right direction. But
right.
Yeah, things are good now, but for a while they were pretty bad. I mean, at one point we were going to kind of split ways.
That's so crazy and stressful, right?
Yes, it's the worst feeling.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm so appreciative too that you're sharing this, because this is stuff that like people don't often say out loud, which is like, yeah, not everything's perfect, in like startup land. It's like, oh yeah, everything's great today, but like sometimes it's not. Sometimes not everything's great.
It sucks half the time.
Yeah. Okay, so you sort of ease into working together, and then you're kind of just like, you guys are delicately managing the next steps. Maybe there's still a little bit of tension, but you guys are figuring it out. Like, what are the questions that you ask yourself before you make, like, if you're going to make a decision to call it quits with a co-founder, like, what are some questions you should ask yourself to figure that out? Because you've had to do this.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do that, you have to, figure out, like what's the true reasons you're going to split up. Like, don't just kind of act in the moment, because when him and I were going to kind of, split ways to go work on our own different ventures or figure out what's next, we actually decided to push it back a few days. Well, the worst part was this actually happened when I was in San Francisco. So I definitely didn't want to just split ways over email. So I said, hey, let's wait till I get back in town and kind of give each other time to cool off, because we kind of got into a big argument over email and calls. So As you know, when you're in the moment, you can say stuff that you don't really mean,
Right.
or just explode. So, one is I think you should, just wait on it or sleep on it, and just kind of truly figure out like, okay, what are the pros, the cons, and then from there, once you kind of figure out the true reasons you want to split, try and look at it from both perspectives. Like, what have they done that you think should have been done better? And then what have you done on your side that you could have done better to kind of prevent this? And
Yeah.
then figure out, is it best to completely split ways, or maybe can you come to like some mutual agreement where like maybe somebody takes an advisory role or like consults or something? Because I think one of my mentors once told me that with especially like your executive team or your co-founders, like it's not always binary. Doesn't always mean you have to get rid of them. You can kind of come to some mutual agreement. So
Mm.
I
So
kind of just
what's an example of that? Because like it's not always like, what do you mean it's not always binary?
so like it doesn't mean you have to like completely split ways and like kind of just screw it. I'm gonna do my own thing and you do your own thing, or hey, we're gonna stick through it together. You can kind of see if there's still value you can provide to each other, because like you got to go back to it, right? There's usually a reason you chose that person to kind of work with as your co-founder,
Right.
unless you rushed it like through cofounderdating.com, then it's
Right.
different. But if you truly know this person, there's usually a reason why you chose each other. It's kind of like marriage, right? So you have to minus all the good stuff. So it's like you have to figure out like what's the reason you chose this person as your co-founder.
Yeah.
And then, if there's still benefits to working together that can maybe keep moving the business forward, because you always got to think about the business too. Like, can the business keep moving forward? Maybe you can help one each other out. And the example we were going to do is we were going to see if we can come to some mutual agreement about maybe keeping him on board still. 'Cause I mean, I'm not technical, so like I would still have to find somebody to take over the CTO or
Yeah.
build in the meantime. And I'm not a big fan of outsourcing it. So it's like maybe having him on board as like a advisor, maybe paying him like a small consulting fee was the example we were going to kind of hope to take. I
Got
mean,
it.
worst to worst was we were just going to split ways, but I was going to hope that maybe we can come to this agreement,
Yeah.
or maybe we ended up fixing it, which we did. But I would just say like look at alternative ways. There's probably ways you can still help each other.
Right. You can kind of get creative with the deal. Got it. Okay. That makes total sense. So, what do you feel like are some best practices that you guys have used in order to keep you working well together? Like, do you work? Are you in the same city? Are you working in the same place? Like, how are you? What are the best practices for you?
Yeah, so we're in the same city. Well, he lives in a suburb outside the cities, but you get the point. It's all within
Yeah.
driving distance. So actually, one of the biggest issues for us, I think it's the biggest issue, which I didn't mention in the beginning, was we had lack of communication in the beginning.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we had a pretty loose policy. I shouldn't say policy, but essentially a policy of like you can work from wherever you want remotely. Doesn't really matter what. Which
Mm-hmm.
is fine. There's a lot of teams that can build remote teams. I think building a remote team is a art itself.
Yeah.
Um, but we didn't really say we were a remote team. We just worked wherever we want, whether it's from home, coffee shops, and every once in a while we would meet in person. And then to make things worse, we also wouldn't communicate daily sometimes. So you kind of start kind of having a lack of trust amongst each other. Like, well, is he or she really working on what they say they're working on, or like, what is this person doing? Are they actually at home working, or are they, just out, at the mall spending
Right.
time or whatever? So that was like the biggest thing between us, and that's one of the things that I sat down and kind of reflected on when we were kind of thinking about splitting ways. Is like, well, I should have done a better job of communication, especially with like how important communication is in the early days. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of everything. So we actually, when we met about like, what's the best way to resolve this, we said, one thing we could have been doing is working more side by side.
Mm,
And today we're working remotely, but I just got off the phone call with him before this.
yeah.
Basically, like we made, I don't want to say policies, but again, we made it an effort to not work kind of in the same room at the same table. 3 to 4 times out of a week, sometimes 4 to 5, and then we both kind of like having that 1 day remote, 2 day remote type of thing a week.
Yeah.
But if we do, we make sure we talk every day, not only via Slack and phones, but like every day we have a daily recap of like what did we hear, what went wrong, and just kind of being more in agreement with that. So I think that's the number one thing, communication. I mean,
You also mentioned something earlier about like, the types of decisions that you have to make together. like, are there certain kinds of decisions that you guys decide, okay, we're going to make these together versus this is your responsibility and my responsibility? How do you figure that out?
Yeah. So Kyle, who's the CEO of Coco, which is the hub we work out of, the co-working space,
Uh-huh.
he one time told me some of the best advice I've gotten, at least personally, which is like, I think managing a co-founder relationship is tough because there's two dynamics to it. One is you have the business partnership relationship to it, and the second thing is you have the day-to-day executive sort of um, operation to it. And he said there's a difference between kind of like what does day-to-day management looks like
Mm,
and what does co-founder relationship looks like. And what he means by that is you have to have certain expectations in place with each other in terms of like what your roles are and what you're going to perform on a day-to-day
yeah,
basis. And like these things get done regardless because every company should have a CEO or somebody at the top kind of dictates the way, not dictates, that's the wrong way to use, but kind of like leads the direction.
right.
But then you also should have co-founder relationships where like if it's big decisions that affect the company on a bigger scale, that you should kind of come to some agreement. And for the most part, you should both agree on. You shouldn't, if you're truly co-founder, there shouldn't be one co-founder who kind of, outvotes the other one, especially if
Yeah.
it's just two of you. And some examples by that is like, if we decide to take funding or not, which we've been going back and forth about, is like if we decide to raise a seed round, that should be a relation. That should be a discussion you have with your co-founder about, do we do this or not, or do we
Right.
take a grant that might, put certain policies on our company, or like do we, do this certain thing, or do we get rid of something? Like I think those are, or like do you pivot your company, right? That's something that you kind of
Mm,
gotta talk with your co-founder about because your co-founder should have an equal say in that.
right.
Uh, so they can feel like they're truly a co-founder, right? Because one of the issues too is, and this is one of the things I think helps is you have to give your co-founder recognition too, because although you're the CEO and you're usually the face of the company, sometimes the other co-founder can get left out. And if you're not
Mm.
kind of giving them recognition in articles or in interviews, like, people start to wonder, like, is it just a one-person company or is it truly a co-founder? Um,
So when you say recognition, do you mean like, hey, you're doing a good job, I just want to like let you know you're doing a good job? Or do you mean like, hey, we're going to do an article about our company and I want to put you in it? Like, what do you mean by recognition in that scenario?
yeah, so I mean, one thing is just giving them appreciation for what their work they're doing, but I think that's
Yeah.
something that you should be doing anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is mention them in articles or interviews when you do them, but also
Got
one
it.
thing is maybe hand off an article or two every once in a while to them, let them kind of do it.
Mm,
Um, and usually your co-founder is okay with not getting most of this. I should say the word is probably the press, but I think every once in a while it's worth having them kind of take an article so that they can kind of truly feel like they're actually one of the co-founders in this too.
what about for people who are watching this and who are maybe early stage enough so that they're not getting many articles written about them? Like, what's a good way to do the similar thing, but if you don't have articles being written about you yet? How can you give your co-founder that spotlight?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, just talk about them, right? Let people know when you talk about your company that you're a co-founder. I think I see it with too many people. Sometimes people will talk about a company and you get the sense that they're the only founder of the company, and then you later find out that they have a co-founder or two, and that they
Mm,
never were brought up. And that shouldn't be the case. Like when people think of a company, their founders, they should be like, "Oh, I know Alex and Joe are the CEO and CTO of the company."
yeah. Everybody has a little bit of element of like ego in this, right? And so you want to make sure that that person is getting the recognition too. I think that probably will mitigate a lot of your drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, like, one of the things that I hope people hear from this too is that it is not all, rosy and perfect around like working with other people and building teams, particularly really early stage. I don't know if folks have you watched The Social Network, that movie about the Facebook
I
story?
have.
Right. Like, I think that that's probably the first time people see these like startup scenarios and how rough it can get in terms of people agreeing and disagreeing. But this is also, it's not just like a movie. This is daily. People are trying to figure out, how do I build my team and manage my team, and like, how do we get along around a vision? So I'm really glad that you shared your story and a lot of the stuff around like, it's not really that easy, but here's some of the things that you should be thinking about. I really appreciate you adding that perspective.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think it needs to be told more often.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So where can people find you online? Like if people want to follow what you're up to on social media or anything like that, or online website, where can people find you?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is just head honcho arod, and I'm sure you can link to that in the notes and
Yeah.
stuff. And then if people want to reach me via email, I'm pretty accessible. I'm just alex@workman.com.
Awesome.
And then if people who watch this are a construction contractor, they know anybody, yeah, definitely connect with me via alex@workman.com or check out our website, which is just www.workman.com.
Awesome. Okay, and we'll get people the links too. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
No, thank you, Tara.
Bye-bye.
Bye.